Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, thank you for spending some time talking with Yahoo Finance. Was Trump right in 2016 when he said drain the swamp?
Yeah, he was. And unfortunately, he lied. I'm about to start a tour of places in America where President Trump lied directly to. I'm going to be going to Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania.
What are the lies?
Lied about, he said he would bring back manufacturing jobs and he would help people keep their jobs. They said, don't buy your home. But no, those factory jobs continued to leave America and he didn't bring them back. He said he would lower prescription drug prices. Didn't do that. He's not willing to take on the drug companies or the insurance companies. And he said he'd end gun violence, and he's not willing to stand up to the NRA. So he really lied. He said he'd drain the swamp. He's filled the swamp, and he's lined his cabinet with the elite of the elite, who are the ones who continue to rig the system for the benefit of the ultra-wealthy and ultra-connected.
You mentioned the NRA, not exactly a financial topic, but there is money involved, obviously.
Yeah, a lot of money.
The NRA is stumbling at the moment with some internal divisions and other problems. Can you explain why the NRA seems to be so powerful? Why does it have the lock it seems to have on certain legislatures? Is it just that it gives these people money, or is it more than that?
It's much more than that. So yes, they do raise and spend millions of dollars on campaigns, but they also have a membership that they try to influence. So they'll send out a rating. Is this person A-rated or F-rated? Is this person someone who's taking away your guns? They mislead voters. They misinform voters. And they do it all because they care more about gun sales.
Do you see any evidence that the NRA is losing power?
Yes, I do. Because what we've seen is these horrible incidents of gun violence over several years, mass shootings, and then shootings every day in inner cities that is beginning to wear on the American people. And the young people of America are rising up. The fact that you have kids marching out of classrooms, marching on Washington, marching for our lives, the fact that you have young women like Emma Gonzalez speaking up and calling BS on every member of Congress that has ever lied to her, that is changing outcomes, because even if they can't convince a legislator to do the right thing, they can convince their parents, and they can convince their grandparents and all the people that love them, and those people will start voting out people that won't be for common sense gun reform.
Is that getting to the point where it's influencing where some of your colleagues in Congress stand?
I do. I really believe
in actual votes? I
do. I think it's changing members of Congress in Florida. I think it wasn't enough to change Marco Rubio. Because of Parkland, he had a young man stand up to him at a town hall and say, I dare you not to take NRA money, and he wasn't willing to say okay, which was a shame. But I do believe members of Congress are on notice, and I think you'll see a change.
You worked for corporations. You had a lot of corporate clients when you worked for a couple of prominent law firms, including the tobacco industry and some others that people are familiar with. And now you have a lot to say about the role of corporate power and corporate money in politics, and you call it a corrupting role. So can you describe your pathway from somebody who had big companies as a client, and now you're looking at the influence they have and saying there's something wrong with this?
Yeah. One of the reasons why I left the law and decided to run for Congress was because I wasn't fulfilled through the work I was doing. I felt like it didn't represent who I was and my values and what I wanted to accomplish in life. I'm a fairly faith-driven person, and I feel like all of us are called to help people in life and to make the world better for those who need your help. And so I wanted to leave the law because I felt like I wasn't doing enough to help others, and I really wanted to do public service.
We communicate a lot with the business community at Yahoo Finance. That's a big part of our audience. That's a big group. Should business people, small business owners, and the millions of people who work for these big corporations, should they be worried about a Democrat winning the White House?
They should be excited for some Democrats. I mean, I think I'm the best candidate because I have a real strong vision for how to make this economy grow for everyone. And I have a record of actually bringing people together and getting things done. I passed 18 bills in the last Congress alone that President Trump signed into law. He has no idea he signed them into law, but he did.
Give us one example of those.
More money for rural broadband, more money for rural manufacturing, made in America. Money for small businesses, particularly baby boomers who are desperate to sell their business, but their kids don't want it. So I created a law that allows them to sell those businesses to their employees, to have more employee ownership, so you can create wealth in the middle class through business ownership. I have a really robust agenda on starting to reward work again. I mean, one of the problems that's really created income inequality and really created this divergence in wealth in this country is that we've stopped valuing our workers. We value, unfortunately, our shareholders more than our workers, and that's taught in every business school in America.
How do you change that?
A couple of ways. First, some structural changes, certainly supporting our unions so that more unions can collectively bargain and get better wages and better benefits for workers. Two, change your minimum wage so it's a living wage, get rid of tip minimum wage and just have one at 15.
What would you like to see the federal minimum wage
15, and then index it to inflation. Second, change the structure of work, having things like national paid leave. We're the only industrialized country in the world that doesn't have it. And it's a drag on our economy because a lot of workers, they need to meet a family need, an urgent crisis, a dying parent, a sick spouse, a new child, and either they leave work because they can afford it and meet that need, or they keep working and not meet the need because they can't feed their kids without it. And that's really putting families in a tough position, and it's making us less competitive because other countries do it and do it well, and we don't. So change the structure work. And then last, really incentivize and create opportunities to lift up good behavior and to really disincentivize bad behavior. When those companies start shipping jobs overseas, take away their tax benefits that allow them to have a deduction for shipping those jobs overseas, for moving their property, plant, and equipment. Take away the tax benefits for being a company that doesn't invest in the middle class, and maybe consider a lower tax rate for companies that actually have a social mission. Let's just say your social mission is to build a middle class, or to have family-friendly policies, or to have a green economy and address global climate change. Imagine having a corporate tax rate somewhere between the for-profit rate and the not-for-profit rate for socially good companies, companies that have social missions.
The corporate tax rate, are you okay with it at 21% now, or would you push it back up?
I would probably push it back up, and then maybe lower a rate for this mission-driven company, for people who have a socially good, mission-driven imperative. That I would try to do it differently.
I'm going to try to hit a couple of quick issues and then ask about healthcare, which is complicated, obviously. President Trump, should the House begin impeachment proceedings?
I've said that we do need to begin to have hearings, because the truth is President Trump is really continuing to obstruct justice. The American people are entitled to know what happened. The Russian government clearly tried to upend our democracy and really harm our democracy significantly. Even Robert Mueller said this was not tinkering around the edges. This was not just what word did he use? He said it wasn't a small amount. He said it was really significant, and it wasn't at the margins. And so we need to know exactly what happened. We need an unredacted copy of the Mueller report. We need to take McGahn's testimony as well as Barr's testimony, and President Trump has blocked both of those people from testifying. And we're going to take Mueller's testimony this week, I think. Right. So I think you will have a greater legal authority to get that testimony and to get the unredacted report if you are in impeachment proceedings. And so I think that the Speaker needs to start hearings so we can get more of the information to lift it up. I don't know that we'll ever get the chance to vote, but it's still important that we have the process so that we can get facts. So I do think in light of the fact that President Trump is obstructing even now, that we need to get the information.
New York State has now paved the way for Congress to get Trump's state tax returns. Should Congress go after those?
Yes.
To what end?
I think every presidential candidate should reveal their taxes. When I declared my candidacy, I was the first presidential candidate this cycle to release all of my 12 years of taxes that I've been in public service.
I have them.
Yeah. So I think it's important. And I, as a first-time candidate running for Congress, I believe in transparency and accountability. I actually published a Sunlight report where I published my earmarks, all the money I was requesting for the district. I published my schedule, what people I was meeting with over what issues. I published my financial disclosure and then ultimately my taxes. First member of Congress to do all that. And even the New York Times said it was a quiet touch of revolution.
Should the U.S. women's soccer team go to the White House if they're invited?
That's up to them. I think they should certainly be paid equal pay for equal work. And since they are winning and have won and have more goals and more viewers, they really should be paid not only as much as the men, but perhaps more.
Let me ask you about healthcare now. So this is complicated. A lot of people care about this. You do favor Medicare for all, but when asked whether we should eliminate private insurance, you did not raise your hand to that question. Why don't you explain your thinking there?
I don't think you need to. I think that what's really important is that we aspire to healthcare as a right and not a privilege, as a universal right that's permanent. So that's your goal. I think the quickest way to get there is to create not-for-profit competition within the system. Allow anyone to buy into Medicare at a percentage of their income, a price they can afford, and they get Medicare coverage.
You're basically saying let Medicare compete with for-profit insurers, and you're postulating that that would essentially drive the insurance companies out of business?
Because they've never tried to compete. They've never actually tried to lower their rates. They raise their rates every year as a matter of course. They're more interested in profits than they are their patients, and that's just been shown by history. If they want to compete, let them lower their rates, let them cover more stuff. Medicare is good. It covers everything, and we're going to expand it to cover really everything. So I dare them to compete. I doubt they will. And to the extent they want to participate in some market in the future that there's interest in, that's their choice. But I don't think you have to worry about them, because what you want to get to is Medicare for all as the single payer that it could be as an earned benefit, so that no matter who you are, you buy into Social Security, you buy into Medicare, both your retirement and your health care are both social safety nets that are there for you. And I promise you, if you spend your life working hard and buying into that, no one's ever taken it away from you. And that's the way you make it permanent.
In the first set of Democratic debates, you did raise your hand when the question was, would you provide health care for undocumented immigrants to the United States? So at a plain English level, can you explain, we've got 30 million Americans who don't have coverage, millions more for whom it's too expensive. How do you make the case that we should cover undocumented immigrants in the United States when Americans don't have coverage?
So coverage is the wrong word. Right now, we provide medical care for everyone. Every emergency room in America takes whoever shows up, whether you have insurance or not, whether you're documented or undocumented. So we're already doing that. It's called the Good Samaritan rule. And we believe as a nation that no one should die on a street corner and not have life-saving care when they need it. So we already believe that. So let's just be clear. When you only allow people to get health care through an emergency room when they're in crisis, it's the most expensive health care in the world. Emergency room care is expensive. A day in the hospital is $1,000 minimum. So if you want to bend that cost curve and lower prices of health care costs, get everyone into preventive care. I want them to buy in, though, so it's not free. It's just like everybody else. If you want access to Medicare, you got to buy in at 4 or 5% of your income, whatever the right number is, matched by your employer. But I want an earned path to citizenship, and this is how it works together. I want comprehensive immigration reform with a pathway to citizenship. Anyone who's undocumented in this country today, I need them to start paying their taxes. They got to start paying their taxes if they're not already, their local taxes, their property taxes, their federal taxes. I need them to start buying into Social Security. They don't get it until they're a citizen. And you do that for 10 years, and then you earn your citizenship, and then you'll have Social Security waiting for you, and you've already bought into your health care. So it's not free. You're buying in just like everybody else.
Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, thank you for talking with us.
Great. Thanks.